Most massive, monolithic corporate brands do not actually exist as a single entity. They are a fragmented web of separate, independently operating businesses. India's Digital Personal Data Protection Act, or DPDPA, attempts to govern this reality using a strict, binary set of legal rules. Under this law, an entity that explicitly determines the purpose and means of collecting your personal data is categorized as a data fiduciary. Looking at the linear model on the left, the alternative is a data processor, a subordinate handling data purely for the fiduciary. But this A to B relationship collapses in decentralized ecosystems. Sprawling hotel franchises or university networks don't function as single straight lines. Standard DPDPA definitions fail to map onto these architectures, creating massive liability gaps where the actual data flow ignores statutory categories. Forcing decentralized networks into simple bilateral laws creates a severe compliance vacuum. Resolving it requires engineering a new legal architecture. To identify where the law fails, we have to look at how a consumer interacts with a franchised hotel network. When a customer books a room, they surrender their information based on the overarching reputation of the global umbrella brand. This data flow diagram exposes the operational reality that data is physically intercepted, stored, and utilized by a completely separate, legally distinct local affiliate. If that local affiliate suffers a data breach, a structural conflict arises. Consumers hold the global brand responsible, but privacy law points directly at the local affiliate. Parent brands mitigate this reputational damage by imposing strict, top-down mandates and data-sharing policies on those affiliates. But if a lawsuit is filed, is the parent brand legally exposed for the negligence of an affiliate when all they did was license a name and issue a policy? Exercising reputational authority without executing direct data collection places the overarching brand in an undefined, unprotected legal void. We can apply this exact structural analysis to the higher education sector to locate where liability truly begins. Within a massive university system, the first step is isolating the exact node where personal data enters the network. This specific map of institutional intake shows that data generation happens directly at the affiliated college level, primarily during the admissions process. Centralized allocation systems, where an external authority assigns the admission, operate as a specific, narrow legal exception to this rule. But in the standard operational flow, the individual college actively defines the educational purpose and physically collects the information, perfectly fulfilling the DPDPA criteria. Therefore, the affiliated college officially assumes the legal status of the primary data fiduciary. Operational proximity to the data principal establishes the primary legal liability, regardless of the larger university banner hanging over the campus. Below the college level, the data structure fragments further into autonomous internal departments, such as examination boards, libraries, and sports facilities. Notice in this internal flow mapping that these autonomous departments do not collect fresh data. They consume the existing admission records originally generated by the college. Both the Information Technology Act 2000 and the DPDPA include provisions for a secondary category known as a joint data fiduciary. If a department dictates the purpose of using student data, they share liability as a joint data fiduciary. If they merely execute a function without determining purpose, they are strictly a data processor. The lower tiers of the educational architecture can be neatly categorized using existing statutory definitions, but the apex of the entire system remains legally invisible. Mapping the departments and colleges exposes a glaring structural omission: the overarching university itself. Examinations are conducted and degrees are awarded entirely under the university's brand, yet the university organization is detached from the physical collection of student data. Fixing this liability gap requires introducing a new jurisprudential category to the compliance framework: the Super Data Fiduciary. This defines an entity at the top of the fiduciary pyramid. It functions based on perception, exercising overarching governance or ecosystem control over subordinate entities. It replaces the act of direct data collection with ecosystem control as the legal trigger for fiduciary status. The Super Data Fiduciary model connects the public trust a student places in an institution with the decentralized operational mechanics actually processing their information. we can now reconstruct the entire legal architecture for the education sector, starting from the secondary processors and joint fiduciaries at the base. Moving up one level, we secure the individual colleges acting as the primary data fiduciaries, driving the entire operational intake. This complete hierarchy visualizes the finalized structure, with the university secured at the apex as the Super Data Fiduciary. This tiered ecosystem model precisely tracks the physical flow of data across servers, while reflecting the psychological trust mapped in the student's mind. Mapping this hierarchy is a mandatory prerequisite for establishing compliance under rigorous frameworks like the Data Governance and Protection Standard of India. Formalizing this structure exposes an immediate risk. The current text of the DPDPA contains 0 definitions regarding the legal liabilities of a super data fiduciary. Without explicit statutory guidance, compliance professionals must engineer the boundaries of institutional responsibility entirely from scratch. This engineering faces a severe hurdle when a state-governed university claims the legal status of an instrumentality of state. Securing that classification grants an institution highly privileged exemptions from standard data processing liabilities and penalties. The critical unknown is whether this state-level protection cascades downwards to shield the privately operated affiliated colleges. Current Supreme Court jurisprudence explores the boundaries of state instrumentality primarily in the context of employment disputes. Applying those labor-centric rulings to a high-speed data processing environment creates dangerous legal ambiguity. Assuming that governmental exemptions naturally trickle down through the fiduciary pyramid exposes the entire educational network to massive, unforeseen regulatory penalties. Institutions must stop relying on broken legal binaries. Mitigating these risks requires discarding simple statutory definitions and adopting a comprehensive, ecosystem-wide approach to data governance.